This is the Neewer PS099E V-mount battery, and this is Smallrig's VB99 V-mount battery. These two batteries are exactly the same in a lot of ways when it comes to price, ports, and capacity. So it had me wondering, what are the meaningful differences between them and why would you choose one over the other? So that's what I'll cover in this video. I've used the Neewer for the last month since they gave it to me to test for this video, but I've been using the Smallrig VB99 V-mount batteries for just around 2 years now. And so putting them head to head, I wanted to see really which one would come out on top. So let's start with what their similarities are. Both of these batteries are priced exactly the same at $199. So they're both affordable V-mount battery options. That's what initially attracted me to the Smallrig battery when I first got them 2 years ago. They both also share exactly the same ports. So you have the BP port on the bottom, the D taps on the side. You have two barrel ports on the top, one that's 8 volt and 12 volt. And then you have USB-A and USB-C ports. And finally, these are both the 99 watt hour sized V-mount batteries. You can get smaller ones at around 50 watt hours, and then larger ones in the Smallrig case, I think they have some at like 200 watt hours and like 350 or something along those lines. But at the 99 watt hour capacity, you're getting the largest size you can take legally on an aircraft. And so that's why I was also very attracted to this size of a V-mount battery, because I do think the 50 watt hour ones are a little too small. And lastly, they both have a display that shows what their power usage is, so you can actually monitor each input and output on the device. But you'll see that that even differs in the way they display that information, but more on that later. Now let's move on to their differences. Despite them both having the exact same 99 watt hour capacity, the Smallrig one actually is slightly smaller than the Neewer one. It's not by some huge amount that you're really gonna be upset if you went with the Neewer option, but it does give a point to the Smallrig that they really help keep your rig and setup compact. They also ever so slightly differ in their build quality. First off, the material used to build them. They're both made of some durable plastic, but if I'm being honest, I do think the Smallrig one feels a lot more premium and rugged. And that's not to say that the Neewer one is somehow cheap and you're worried that it's gonna break or anything like that, but it definitely doesn't feel quite as nice and premium or even durable as the Smallrig one does. I also am not a huge fan of the coverings on the Neewer battery. The way those plastic coverings over the ports fit doesn't fit super snugly, or at least I always struggle sort of putting that sleeve back on, whereas on the Smallrig one, it's a lot easier to take off and on as needed. This is not like some huge deal breaker, but it is something that I noticed in my use of the battery. Next, the port orientation of the battery is actually very different and can be a deal breaker depending on your setup. So the Smallrig battery pretty much has all of the main ports on the top of the battery. So you have your USB-A, USB-C, and your barrel inputs. And then on the side, you have the D-tap input, and then the bottom has that BP input. The Neewer is set up a little bit differently. On the top, you only have the 2 barrel inputs. And then on one side of the battery, you have the USB-A and USB-C port. On the other side of the battery, you have the D-tap port. And then once again, the BP is on the bottom, as is to be expected. And I struggled deciding which one might be better, because in some cases, I did find that having all the ports on the top with the Smallrig battery, it got a little too cluttered and it can be a little annoying to disconnect a single cable at a time because you're really fighting all the other cables in that vicinity. Whereas the Neewer option, you got more space between all of the different inputs and outputs, but it is kind of strange having some come out from the side, some come out from the top, and all these different directions, and it can get a little messy if you're not careful with your cable management. But I will say I prefer Neewer's position of their power button much more than I do Smallrig's position. You see, on the Smallrig battery, the power button is on the side, and so oftentimes I forget that and I'm like looking for the power button because my instinct is it should be on the front where the display is, but it's not there and it's on the side, and it's not like the end of the world or anything, but I have found the Neewer one to be a lot more intuitive and easy to access for that matter, because you're facing that side of the battery to the world when you have it mounted on a camera. And so it's very easy to just tap under the screen to turn on the screen and see all the inputs and see the power and the battery level of the V-mount battery. These are all very small nitpicks, but something worth noting if you're looking between these two batteries. And the last major difference I noticed between these two batteries is the way they charge. They both can be charged using either the USB-A port or the USB-C port. I personally prefer charging it with the USB-C port because pretty much all my devices now charge using a USB-C cable. And I've pretty much transferred all my cables to be high power delivery cables, doing above 65 watts, and most of them are around the 100 watt power delivery. And so that way I can charge these devices really quickly, and that's true for these batteries as well. But the big difference I noticed here is that the Neewer battery has a max charging input capacity of 65 watts. So going from 0 to 100, you're gonna be taking around maybe 90 minutes to 2 hours to fully charge that battery. Whereas the Smallrig battery can actually accept up to 100 watts of power delivery to recharge. And so I've been able to charge that from 0 in an hour, a little under sometimes, closer to 50-55 minutes. And so that is a nice bonus to the Smallrig, although 99% of the time, I'm usually charging these V-mount batteries after a shoot overnight. And so the fact that the Smallrig battery charges faster is a nice plus, but not something I fully utilize all the time. So what is my recommendation? Both the Neewer and the Smallrig batteries perform exceptionally. I have had no problems using them on the field to power my Canon R5 Mark II, my R6 Mark II, and now with my new company that I work with, the FX6. They've both worked phenomenally, and I have no qualms or issues with how they operate. So it's really gonna come down to, one, that port orientation, if that matters to your setup, and two, if you really care for that sort of more premium build quality that the Smallrig battery definitely has. I will leave a link to both of these products in the description box below in case you decide to pick one up for yourself. But what do you think? Which battery would you go for and why? Let us know in the comment section below. If you liked this gear comparison video, you can check out my other comparison videos here. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. I appreciate every single one of you who do, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.